Thank you and for taking the time to do this. So yeah, just give us the one. What's the 1 minute like? Who are you? Why am I interviewing you? And how can people support you or whatever?
Okay. My name is Antoinette Scully. My pronouns are she and they. I live in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. I am actually the national organizer for the UU Women's Federation, and I am running for a local city council office. And all of that means that Los Angeles is one of the largest cities in the country. And so when we have city council people, city council is almost like a mayor of a small town, a mayor of a large town. I mean, there are over 100,000 voters in my district, and there are over 200,000 people. And so this includes immigrants, people who are undocumented, families, children under 5. Like, this is a high stakes opportunity to make meaningful change in my community and within a wider community of Los Angeles City.
Awesome. I'm so thrilled to have met you. It's so cool to know people my age who are now running for office, and it's very inspiring, which is why I wanted to talk to you today. But we're also, in community, or we're in the same faith community, and so I would love to know first, like, what is you're like, what's your kind of like, what was your religious upbringing? Like, just focusing on more of your childhood, like, what were your parents religious? Did you attend services regularly anywhere? Was there a moment of clarity? Like, did you leave? Like, tell us your story.
Yeah, so I grew up Baptist in a small Black town. Um, and it was very much a part of the culture, right? Like, there were multiple churches every couple of blocks. And so I went to a large one, which was hilarious because I lived across the street from a different one that I didn't go to. But everyone had their historical segment.
Uh-huh.
So if your grandparents went to a church, that was the church you went to, kind of thing. When families blended, it meant that you got to go to one or the other church. You didn't get to, so it was a very interesting time. And I would say that I had really nice memories of church. Up until like elementary school-ish.
Mhm.
I don't really remember doing too much in the middle school or high school time of it, but I love, I won't say the dogma of it, but like the tradition of church, of like the standing and kneeling, the singing, and so I went to a church that had lots of enthusiasm and energy and dancing and singing in the aisles. But what I didn't love about it um was the oppression, basically.
Mhm.
My church was not gay friendly. My church was homophobic and really anti anything that seemed like of the devil. Um and so I didn't stay in the church for very long. Um and then when I kind of settled down with a long-term partner, we had kids together. Um, his family was Catholic, and I had no understanding of what Catholic people did or didn't do. But he was not a practicing Catholic. And so we decided to find a kind of neutral church for our family to participate in. And that led us to Unitarian Universalist. And that's a very common story, right? Blended families decide to go somewhere where everyone gets to be welcomed. And that was why I sort of decided to try the UUs. And I've been Unitarian Universalist for just over 11 years, I believe. My oldest is 11. And so we went like the first month of her birth in June of 2011. And so, yeah, I've been Unitarian Universalist since then. I've hopped around from a few churches, but um, I would say that what keeps me religious, or what really sparked my religious piece, because I joined the church and I kind of just did the motions of church, which felt okay. But when COVID started and we had to like start to take care of each other,
Mhm.
that's when it really felt like I became UU, and we found ways to keep our community together. We found ways to expand our community by building a houseless drop-in program. And that's really when I was like, okay, this is what my faith calls me to do.
Yeah, that's that is like, it speaks to like what, like why do we even do this faith community thing? And it is like you say, caring for each other, and I bet that extends to your political work. And so I'm now curious, you kind of gave us like the full faith story, which is great, like I wanted that. I'm curious then, what about your political story? Like was there a time when you were younger when you first kind of became aware of politics? Like, have there been times in your life where you got, you kind of had those like confronting moments or like, oh, like I need to like have an opinion about this, or at least like do something, so.
I will say that I was sheltered politically,
Mm,
um, because and sheltered not in like people trying to keep information from me, but just simply living in a place where we didn't have those deeper conversations. Um, and so I think that for me, I was, um, gosh, politically, I didn't come into anything until 9/11. Yeah, I think I was 16, um, like in
ah,
school watching the towers fall and then having to be told why and what was going on, watching the news cycle change from being regular news to being 24-hour cycle news, right? And so that really became a piece where the world opened up to kind of understand that there were other people doing things politically, our president doing something politically. I had like words for president and Congress and things like that, but I didn't have um connections as to what that meant in my own life. And that I think is really when that changed. I have never had any like real political aspirations. I'm a community organizer. And so for me, what I want to do is help people. And now that I've been doing this for a little bit and I see LA politics and what's happening in LA, is it's the politicians here or the people who are serving in office, more activists and far left people are getting elected.
mm,
And so we are we are working to sort of radicalize the city by putting in people who are already radicalized.
I hope, this is a little short question, which you just inspired me to ask, which is, I am also a community organizer, and I cannot deny that, when Barack Obama came around and everyone's like, oh yeah, he was a community organizer. Like that was a huge like, oh wow, someone like me could go and be like a huge big political deal. Did you have anything similar like that with his election?
I didn't with his election. With his election, I was like, wow, someone who looks like me
Yeah,
is
obviously.
in there. And then I will say right now, as I'm going through talking to people, and I remember all the scrutiny that people had for Barack Obama because he was
Mm,
a community organizer. How dare he? He doesn't have any experience. And then I've been able to take that and say, oh, well,
mm,
this is actually the experience I have because I live in this part of the town, because I know organizations are here, because I know what the needs are of people, that I am so entrenched in the community that, yeah, one of my top experiences or reasons why I think I should do this is because I'm a community organizer. And so I have felt empowered in the opposite direction by him coming out and being that before and becoming president and being like, okay, fine, this is a great step.
awesome. Oh, that's so cool. All right, so you did say, wasn't very involved in politics, until 9/11, which yeah, I mean, like that was a defining moment for all millennial life. And then I'm more of a community organizer. So for those who have no idea what's going on in Los Angeles, California, what like, please explain the context in which you were like, okay, no, I'm actually going to go run for office now.
So there's been it's crazy, right?
It
Like
is.
it's completely
It's nuts,
crazy.
people. Like,
Um, in October, I mean, even before then, Los Angeles as a large city, in California that has a very large economic piece of the US. We are the fourth or fifth largest economy in the country, right?
Hollywood, maybe.
So at Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah.
So Los Angeles does make a big impact on places outside of itself. And in October, it became national news that council people were caught on tape saying racist things. They were planning and using this racism to gerrymander their districts, to cut people out, to make sure that money went to places only they liked. And so it became a big story that the city council of Los Angeles was just corrupt. Like, you know, person after person would be inducted in and then somehow be arrested or resigned. Or right now, the big news story is one of the people who was on that tape who didn't resign and who didn't term out is still trying to hold office, but recently got into a hand-to-hand fight with a activist. So like there's a lot of stuff where people nationally are watching LA just implode. And from our perspective, what we're seeing is the establishment realize that they are losing power and they are panicking and they are trying in all kinds of ways to stop those of us who want to spread that power out. Right. So many people run for office so that they can have power and they can use that to their benefit. And those of us activists and community organizers who are running for office know that what we want to do is we want to take that power and distribute it among our constituents, among the communities, between all of Los Angeles. There's so many pockets of people who are disenfranchised. And so the more of us that get elected in, the scarier it becomes for these establishment politicians who've been council people for 10 years and moving from council to controller to, LA school board. They've just sort of been using the LA city offices to like pad their wallets and things. One of the people who ran for mayor and lost, thank goodness, spent $100,000 just simply to run for mayor. You don't even, you don't get paid that much, right? Like, so it's just, you can see that a lot of people are putting in money simply so that they can stamp their approval onto things. And that's changing and it's scary.
It's almost like they treat political offices like a career.
Yes.
Like with a and it's we treat careers like, oh, it's a ladder, right? You move up a stairwell, in theory, right?
Right.
And it's like, but this is not a career. Like this is a day-to-day. This is trying to deal with day-to-day life here, people. Or so. How would you see that?
That's exactly how I see it, is that it is people's day-to-day lives and livelihood. And I don't see this as a stepping stone position. As I said, I'm not inherently political. And I say that as in like want to be in politics. I'm inherently political because I'm an activist, but I don't see this as, oh, I can be council person now and I can be mayor later and I can be, assemblyman in the future and I can be president. Like that, my goal for this is simply to be in the space of city council so that I can help support the people who need help. And I've seen what that looks like and what it can look like from a community activist point of view, because I've worked with certain council members. I've seen what other people in other districts have been able to accomplish. And I've watched that my previous council person has just decided not to do those kinds of things. And last to that point, I want to say the person who got caught saying racist things and then resigning, who was the city council president, was my city council person. And I am running for council in her district, not as president, but simply as a member of a 15-seat city council.
Yeah. So this is the hottest potato, basically, or the hottest potato. Who's going to replace her? Yeah. So I guess my last question then to wrap us up, and is how will your faith inform your work, or how does it, right? And how do you think, if at all, like, how do you navigate like bringing your your values and your ethics, which are I guess I'm going to assume informed in part by your faith, balance that against, like being a public servant where you're serving people who don't believe the same things as you.
Yeah, that's been really deep and like on my heart for weeks now. That very question of like, how do I stay true to my UU values and also pull in people who are not UU, who are not religious, who are of different faiths, and how can I show them that I'm also here to do the job for them? And I think that I'm in the unique position of being UU, right? Where we've already spent a lot of time talking about how we can be inclusive of all folks, regardless of their religious backgrounds and their needs. And I think that I don't know, I call myself a principalist. I know this is not how we're supposed to use it, but for me, even though the congregations have these principles that we enact, within each other, I'm definitely a person who sees each principle as something that I can also embody. And so for me, embodying inherent worth and dignity towards other people and, justice and compassion and equity and human relationships, so that is really the base of what I'm doing. And I take that and I can say, well, how can I be kinder in this situation? How can I be more compassionate? How can I collaborate more? How can I make sure that that other person is heard? And I think that in and of itself, going into office will bring the care and compassion that I want to bring to the office, but also to the city of LA. I think that a lot of what's going on is just people not being heard. Even if we can't answer the question, there's been many times where I've been on interviews or calls and someone will say, what is your policy for such and such? And I have to say, I'm not an expert in that. I would get an expert, but I will listen to people and I want to hear what you're saying. And thank you for asking me, because the whole point is to have a conversation and be in collaboration. And so I think that being UU has really supported my call to action and to public policy, really. And I am thankful to have had the last 10 years to really be steeped in it.
Awesome. Great. I think, I don't know who's telling you you're not using it right, but I think you're doing fine with embodying the principles. It sounds like a pretty great way to practice our faith. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. That your story is it's uniquely you, and yet anyone can relate to any part of that. I really loved what you were sharing. I think the last thing is, how can people support your work?
Yeah, if you're in LA this week and next week, I mean, it's hard and difficult. It's a holiday week, but we're gathering signatures, and that's the first part of it. Is like we're not even to who's on the ballot yet, and so everyone's gathering signatures. We've got to have 1,000 by January 3rd, and past that, if you're not in LA, donating to our campaign helps it so that we can give volunteers food when they do get out there and do signatures. And so any little bit helps, both from people who live in the district and who don't. And so that's really what we're asking for right now. And also boosting our stuff on social media.
And what district specifically? Because I know people in Los Angeles who may actually live in your district. So
it is Council District 6,
Council.
and that encompasses the neighborhoods of Lake Balboa, Van Nuys, North Hills, Panorama City, parts of Sun Valley, and parts of North Hollywood. Oh, and also Arleta.
I think my friend lives in Eagle Rock still, so I think that's outside, but I know several people. So
there's a wonderful thing that the city does, and it's called the Matching Funds Program. And what it does is it allows donations to be matched 6-1. And so if anybody in the city of Los Angeles as a registered voter donates to my campaign, that money is matched 6-1.
Wow. Okay.
It's phenomenal. So even if you don't live in the district, it is still helpful to donate to the campaign. And even if you don't live in the district, it's a reminder that like city council, right, is broken up into 15 districts, and we are the caretakers of our district. But as a whole, all 15 members vote on ordinances of LA City. And so I might be outside of your district, but my job would be to support the entirety of city
Mhm,
members.
mhm. Yeah, totally. You represent one district, but you ultimately serve the whole city, basically.
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, Antoinette, thank you so much again, and best of luck with the campaign. I'm going to tell all my friends about you.
Thank you.
Yes.